Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So I almost punched our receptionist this morning. That did not go well. I mean, but we have other things to talk about. Do you remember a couple days ago when we were talking about Donald Trump saying, like, you should be stripped of your citizenship and spend a year in jail, perhaps both, if you burn the flag? Do you remember our conversation about that the other day? Well, it seems as though the rest of what you would call the media has kind of come around to some of the things that we were talking about earlier in the week, and now it's quite the topic of conversation. But almost didn't make it into the studio today because I almost punched the receptionist.
Why you got to be so punchy?
It's not on purpose. Not a thing. I'd never want to. I love our receptionists. Our receptionists are awesome. The big old smile when you walk in every single morning. Like, that's the best part of my day. Those are my favorite people to deal with once I get into the office. All the doom and gloom starts once you walk in that door to the studios or you get in the elevator and go to the top. Like, I love our receptionists. They are the bestie best. Like, that's really, really, they ease the searing pain of everyday existence in corporate America when you start it with a big old smile from the receptionist. And they're so cool. And one of our receptionists is like, I think she's like 18 years old. She's the daughter of someone who either works in the sales department or the traffic department. And so, she does a great job at everything she does, but still ultimately she's a kid, and kids like to engage in merry hijinks. So I get out of the elevator and, not looking where I'm going really. And she jumps out from behind the elevator vestibule. She's like, boo! And I don't take that sort of thing well. And instinctively, my hand makes a fist and I cock back ready to punch whatever it is. Maybe it's grown up in cities like New York City and London where you're ever vigilant for someone that might be out to roll you for your cash or something like that. But if someone jumps out and startles me, I make a fist and I look for who I got to punch. And she's like cowering in the corner being like, no. I was like, I'm not obviously going to hit you, but please never do that again. Like, save your teenage witticisms for somebody else that has a better sense of humor about being startled. But I think we all learned a lesson today, but I felt terrible.
I used to always end up dating the receptionists wherever I worked.
What? Why? Why would you do that?
They were hot.
Like, can open worms.
Always the hot one is the receptionist. One in the front, the greeter.
Our receptionists are not what I would call hot. Although I have to say, like, I have a specific type. I do. I think I just...
Mine were
like,
hot.
I think this is like a Cro-Magnon thing. I tend to, especially as I get older, like when I was younger, I liked to go for the dark, dusky, exotic ones that were nothing at all, like my incredibly white self. But as I get older, I think it maybe is some sort of like Cro-Magnon primordial. This person would be good for you to breed with. I like white chicks. Like, that's what I like. It sounds racist. It's not. It's just, I'm not racist. Maybe my junk has racist preferences, but like, I like a white chick with a booty. I believe in the urban community that is known as a wootie. That is what I enjoy. But I can't get into.
You can't get behind dating your receptionist? Come on.
Hell no. Why would you do that? Don't you know the old adage about defecating where you eat? Because it's gonna go south and it's gonna end badly. I can't imagine why you think that would be a good idea.
No, actually, the times I did it did end horribly.
Oh, see,
they're still out there receptionizing.
not here, right?
No, different
companies. The other companies,
the jerk companies.
Do you think they left because of your dalliances?
What? Who left? I left?
Do you think the receptionist left the company?
No. I used to work there at that one.
Oh, so you didn't date the receptionist at this? I guess, like if any of the H&R...
Learned my lesson after that point.
Yeah, if human resources are listening at the moment in time, we should make this crystal clear. Funkhouser did not date any of the receptionists at this company. It was at a previous company.
Yeah, no, me and Nicole are just friends. That's all there is.
I just can't imagine what the rationale is for date. Like, it's gonna blow up in your face and go. But you know what's very interesting about office relationships?
She knew everything about me already. Because I worked for, she worked for the thing, so I didn't have to really introduce myself. I made it really easy.
I guess she already thought you were cool. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to prove that.
She
like
read
walking
my
down
one
the street.
sheet.
Right. Yeah, when she gets a sheet of paper from this. Yeah, when she gets a sheet of paper from the sales department explaining why she should buy into you, I guess she bought into you. It raises an interesting point about office relationships. Yeah, interesting point about office relationships. And my sister and her husband went through this exact thing. It was very interesting. We'll talk about that and what the rest of the media has caught on to about Trump next.
Real radio.
104.1. Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So, Funkhouser has just admitted to us that he has dated, is it multiple receptionists in the past?
I used to date the receptionist at a couple of places I worked at.
A couple different places. Now, when it inevitably went south, because you're not married to these people, I know that it didn't work out. How'd that go, walking into your place of business every single morning, having dipped your pen into company ink and having that company ink look scornfully at you every single time you enter your place of business? How'd that go?
It just becomes an inbox at that point. You don't get a greeting. You get it in. Here's your mail. It's just a empty inbox.
Like, were you
she's
dating?
Not even there. She knows when I get there, she's not there. That's what happens.
Were you dating? Were these actual, like, relationships, or was this just sort of like hanging out and having some fun?
Oh, yeah, I go in big. If you listened.
Yeah.
The
moment Funkhouser.
Unfortunately, I go big.
Yeah. When it comes to relationships, Funkhouser goes big or goes home.
Usually I go home.
And by that time, home is usually the girl's place. So, So, how long were you with this? Well, let's just
2 years,
take the first instance. 2 years? You dated the receptionist for 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah, we moved to different places of the world together. We moved from one station to another station together.
Wow.
2 años.
So 2 years. So that qualifies as a relationship. Because, like, all right, let me ask you this. How did it end?
How did it end? I lost my job.
Oh, and she was...
I'm going to stay. Bye. I didn't really like it.
And you had to move to a different place? Oh. So it was a geographical divide that put the bullet in the relationship?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Plus,
what you
then
just
she
outlined.
started dating the afternoon guy that replaced me.
Oh, so, no kidding. Whoa. You got fired and she started dating your replacement?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sure, Bobby.
Oh, that's not good.
You hear that big rig?
Yeah.
Coming after you.
Was it Big Rig?
No. I'm just saying he's on after us, isn't he? In some places. So.
In some places, Big Rig is on like all these different stations.
Does he have a hot receptionist girlfriend?
I don't know. I really don't know about Big Rig's personal life. Oh my gosh, that's a
trend in radio, just taking other people's girlfriends after you take their
Really? Is it a trend in
slots.
radio? I haven't seen it happen.
Well, wait till you move on, my friend.
So I think it's interesting, though, because like my sister and her husband kind of went through this where they started dating at a company they were working at together. And I guess the company frowned upon that sort of thing. So they had to be super duper secretive about it. And then they got to the point where they had to disclose the relationship to management once they realized it was a real thing. And then they had to, but then management didn't want them to disclose their relationship to the rest of the workplace. So they couldn't carpool to work together because it looked untoward and, all this sort of stuff. And it was crazy. And it was super frowned on and until they were getting married. And then everyone was like, yay! hey, they're together. So for like 2.5 years, they had to be super cloak and dagger about it and risk getting fired for the relationship. And then they couldn't have been happier for him when they eventually decided to tie the knot. It's a weird dichotomy that you face in the workplace when you start dating your coworkers.
Yeah,
something I have never once done.
Yeah, here in radio, how many program directors have the same last name? You be the judge.
I don't know.
We're very romantically connected here in broadcasting.
I guess so.
Some of us. I stopped a long time ago, though.
You know, like there's a lot of people in this building that did marry coworkers, but now none of the coworkers work here anymore. They've all sort of like moved on to other things, and they still
they're working for the new Knicks or the new Star.
No, they actually they all left radio. I think like they all like so it's weird. It is a strange and twisted and tangled web that gets weaved in the world of radio and relationships. Something that I have never experienced, and I look forward to.
That happens in all the jobs, though. People dating the receptionist.
It does. You know where I got hit on by the staff more than, and I would see these things go on between the staff like crazy, like you wouldn't believe. When I was DJing at clubs and stuff and working in, like things that were clubs, bars, restaurants, places like that, before I was on the radio, I was in a band. And when the band was over, I started DJing. And I would DJ literally anywhere they would give you money to set up and play music. Anything from the worst wedding and bar mitzvah in Long Island to the swankiest clubs in Manhattan. And like when I was doing like those brunch Sunday afternoon sets, and like constantly the waitresses would hit on me, constantly. And like they would all be hitting on each other too. Like you just knew that half the waitresses and the waiters were sleeping with each other, and they were doing so on premises. So the sleep wasn't actually happening. It was just like you'd see them disappear down to the manager's office for a little bit and be like,
I'll tell you, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. And there was one time the manager asked me down to her office to go over some stuff, closed the door, and was like, all right, let's go. I was like, what? She's like, just kidding. And I was like, you weren't just kidding. But I'm going to remove myself from this very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
Mostly because your boyfriend is upstairs. Like, no. Like her boyfriend was upstairs. I was like, oh my gosh, the restaurant industry is scandalous. And I read something about this too, like that supported my observations. Like more people hook up in the restaurant business than I think pretty much any other business. I only from the outside looking in did I see the restaurant business, but that's what I've heard, and the evidence I saw supported it. It's really weird. Like manager says, come down to my office, closes the door, locks it, says, let's go. I go, what? And she's like, just kidding. And I know her boyfriend, who's a waiter, is like 20 feet away upstairs. I'm like, this is no, thank you. No, thank you very much. Thank you. No, thanks. like, and I was just like, people are wild in the restaurant business. And as it turns out, they are. Speaking of people being wild, have you seen Donald Trump's Twitter feed recently? Perhaps it's not as wild and random as you think, something we pointed out the other day, and it seems as though the rest of the media is caught on. We'll discuss when we get back. At ADSXE is where you can tweet me. At Funk FM is where you can reach super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhouser.
Always fair and mentally unbalanced. KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So, all right, do you remember the other day when the issue of what should happen to you if you burn the flag came up? And we did an interesting little expose piece on it because, well, Trump had ignited the fury of the media by saying people that burn the flag should be imprisoned and stripped of their citizenship. That's what Trump said. And people went, this is a free speech issue. This is and like the left jumped all over it and said this is Nazism. And by the way, all this referring to presidents, and it happened to Obama and it's been happening to Trump, referring to them as a Nazi. It's funny. I've talked to a couple of Jewish friends about this. I was like, is that insulting to you? Is it like in the way in reflection, considering what the Holocaust is and was, and what it represents and what being a Nazi actually represents. Do you take any offense to people calling folks like Obama and Trump Hitler and saying that they're Nazis? And universally, every single Jewish friend that I talked to about this was like, yeah, that is 100% minimizing what happened to the Jewish people during the Holocaust. So, yeah, maybe people can back down on the throwing around of the word Nazi. I mean, it makes for great headlines and clicks and all of the above, and it makes you seem really sort of interesting and cool, I suppose, if you're a member of the media and you go, this guy's a Nazi. But before you start making that comparison, and I'm not defending anybody, some pretty critical things have to happen. Anyways, here's the dealio. The other day, Trump tweeted and started up this whole conversation about whether or not burning the flag was the right or wrong thing to do. We pointed out that, hey, not that different from Hillary Clinton, who back in 2005 tried to get it written into law that burning the flag would cost you a year in jail and a $100,000 fine. So there's that. So everybody that's trying to play off one another in this situation, just calm the hell down. And then I pointed out, the idea of burning the flag. Do you remember that being part of the presidential debates? No, you don't. What was part of the presidential debates? Whether people were low energy, the size of their hands, and how it corresponded to the size of their junk, the idea of abortion, the idea of a war on women, the idea of grabbing women by the unmentionables, that came up several times, the idea of strengthening our military, the idea of healthcare in America. Those were the hot button issues. Am I missing any, Funkhouser? Anything that came up over and over again?
You pretty much covered it.
Yeah. Do you remember at any stage in the proceedings?
Anything? Did you disavow anything in that?
Yeah, right. The disavowing of Klan support, that was an issue. But do you remember at any stage in the proceedings the idea of flag burning coming up? Was that a hot button issue? Was that a thing?
No, don't recall. Mm-mm.
Yeah, and it sort of makes you feel a little bit that when, and this is not limited to Trump, just Trump is a shining example of how it's done. It makes you feel like when you're going, look at this, really what you should be looking at is the other hand over there. What the hell is that thing doing? So Trump's tweets have seemed for a long time to be random and somewhat crazy. However, and you know what's interesting about Trump's tweets seeming random and crazy? When he won the presidency, when he became President-elect Donald Trump, he had that very sobering, soothing acceptance speech where he talked about being a president for all Americans and bringing the American people together. He had successfully divided folks, and then he was all out to heal the wound. And you know what? This is not an uncommon thing. The division is how politicians conquer on the left and the right. I'm not saying it's unique to Donald Trump. But it was sort of like calm. It was chill. It was a more relaxed version of Donald Trump than we'd seen in the previous 18 months while he was making a bid to be president. And it made me think, hey, looks like the Donald has settled down. Now he's won. And then bazinga, right back on Twitter with well, okay. Cast your mind back to November 18th. The story that Trump had settled a lawsuit. You remember this? The Trump University thing. He agreed to pay $25 million to former students of Trump University. And that was a thing that happened. However, if you were just someone who was a drive-by consumer of the news, that barely registered. That was barely a blip on the 24-hour news cycle radar. The story that everybody was concentrating on right around that time, Vice President-elect Mike Pence got booed after a performance of the Broadway hit Hamilton. And he was just like, hey, I wasn't offended by what was said. It's the people's right to boo. What did Donald Trump do? He took to Twitter, said, our wonderful VP Mike Pence was harassed last night at the theater by the cast of Hamilton, cameras blazing. This should not happen. The theater must always be a safe and special place. The cast of Hamilton was very rude last night to a very good man, Mike Pence. Apologize! Exclamation point. So yeah, you see the parallel that's being drawn here? He 100% dominated the news cycle by getting into it on Twitter with Hamilton. Is this a pre-planned, pre-positioned thing? going, okay, I need people to focus on something other than the $25 million settlement that I've just forked over to former students of Trump University. And a pattern has emerged. Weirdly enough, I saw a great article on this on America Online. They broke it down really, really interestingly. Every time I go, I need to get off of
Breaking
AOL,
news.
something like this happens. Yeah, it is very, very strange. But remember, the flag burning thing. Nobody should be allowed to burn the flag. If they do, there must be consequences, perhaps loss of citizenship or a year in jail. So, that dominated the news cycle. That dominated the news story. Do you know who Tom Price is, Funkhouser?
Doesn't ring a bell.
And you pay attention to the news.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it.
Well, the reason why a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell you who Tom Price is because right around the time that the world was consumed with whether or not it was your constitutional right to burn the American flag, a guy called Tom Price was rather controversially appointed to the Department of Health and Human Services. And this is a guy who could not be more against the Affordable Care Act. So, you got the Affordable Care Act that some people are very opposed to, some people are very against, and you install somebody in the Department of Health and Human Services who is going to tear that thing down if they have their way. And nobody noticed because they were too consumed with the idea of whether or not you should be allowed to burn the flag. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you know what else happened right around the time flag burning gate started? People were talking. I think there was a tiny little article written in the Wall Street Journal about conflicts of interest with Donald Trump's son-in-law, that dude Jared Kushner. And then he went after the folks over at Hamilton even more hardcore on the 20th of November. You know what happened around the 20th of November, Funkhouser?
Week shy of Thanksgiving?
Week shy of Thanksgiving, and also the day before, Donald Trump met with Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, the man who called him a phony and a fraud. We talked about this yesterday on the show, being like, what the hell does it take to be a politician? Do you have to have your spine completely removed? Do you have to have complete absence of backbone, complete lack of willingness to stick to any kind of a principle? Mitt Romney called him a phony and a fraud. He said that the idea of the promises Donald Trump was making was as useless as a diploma from Trump University. Mitt Romney's words, not mine.
Ooh, burn.
Yeah, burn. Ooh. And so it looks a little funny when Donald Trump is meeting with Mitt Romney. It makes the American public go, hey, aren't you two supposed to be bitter enemies? Is our whole political system basically about as grounded as in reality as WWE wrestling? So, to deflect attention away from that rather controversial meeting, more tweets about Hamilton. He tweeted about General James Mattis and New York Senator Chuck Schumer. And went after Saturday Night Live and their impression of him as well. November 22nd, he tweeted all about the New York Times. Canceled and uncanceled this highly publicized meeting that he was going to be having with him. I canceled today's meeting with the failing New York Times when the terms and conditions of the meeting were changed at the last moment. Not nice. I love these things that he says. Like, I love his tweets, but it's the end of it's the end of the tweets that I really like. The theater must be a safe and special place. Apologize. The terms and conditions of the meeting were changed. Not nice.
Well, he's only got a few characters.
I know, but I love the emphaticness. Like, he's a genius at he's a genius at communicating on Twitter. Like, anybody that wants social media lessons should absolutely pay attention to Donald Trump. He does have the distinct advantage of being presidential elect.
Think he's not doing it. It's too good.
I don't know. It is really well done. His fingers
are really small, right?
Unbelievably savvy. But he went after the New York Times on Twitter, and then he only tweeted once after the meeting with the Times, and it was about the accident in Tennessee. But it looked like he was that bus accident in Tennessee. But here's the thing. It looked like he was very purposefully sidestepping this major piece of news about himself. Because earlier that morning, Trump's former campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, told Morning Joe that contrary to his longstanding campaign pledge to lock her up, Trump would not be pursuing a criminal investigation of rival Hillary Clinton. Longest time, that was a big part of his campaign. I'm going to lock up crooked Hillary. That's going to be a thing that will happen. Quietly go, no, he's not going to do that. And then whilst this is happening, he goes after the New York Times. And Trump supporters are more focused on how the New York Times is potentially treating Donald Trump unfairly than the fact that he is breaking a major campaign promise. So there you go. We pointed it out the other day. Everybody seems to have caught on. Whenever you see some crazy town tweet from Donald Trump and think, oh, that wacky president-elect Donald, chances are it's actually a very clever distraction from something else that's happening. Now, this is not limited to Donald Trump. I think politics, creating some sort of distraction for the thought patterns of the American public, a distraction from something that is really kind of scandalous and something that we should be genuinely outraged about. This is a tactic as old as the hills. And what's interesting is I don't think it's ever been done as artfully and as effectively as it's been done by Donald Trump. Not so much because he's not obvious about it. Look, we're not smart. We caught on to it. The rest of the media predicted that Hillary Clinton would win. They're not smart. They're starting to catch on to it. However, I think the way in which he's genius about it is he is so incendiary with his tweets. His tweets are thought bombs into the public consciousness, whether people want them to be or not. People that think they're too smart to fall for that sort of thing, it just gets into their mind, and that's what occupies their thoughts. And meanwhile, other things are going on. I think Donald Trump just does it better than anybody else ever has before because he does it in a super obvious way, and people are still like, I'm still focused on his tweet, not the fact that he's breaking major campaign promises. So there is that. Funkhouser, what is going on in the news today?
This is My Witness News. In no way, shape, or form fair and certainly not balanced. And now, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhouser. Barry Funkhouser.
Oh.
Barry
Yes.
Funkhouser.
News.
Barry
With Barry
Funkhouser.
Funkhouser. You covered the news, basically.
Well, there's other news.
Silly news?
As Jerry Seinfeld once said, it's amazing how the amount of news that happens in a day is exactly how much fits into a newspaper. Go on.
Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift, is the highest paid artist in music.
Yeah, $170 million, I think it was. I think Taylor Swift is the highest paid artist in music, having made $170 million over the last year. There's no data on the highest paid artist no longer in music, but I believe the dudes in Eve 6 just got a 3% cost of living raise at Starbucks, so they're up there.
Real 101 Radio 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So, Funkhouser, did you know that Donald Trump will be able to text you soon?
Why?
Get
why
text
would he?
messages from the president, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Huh.
You up?
That'll be fun.
Yeah, Donald Trump will be able to tweet every single American on the planet in the not-too-distant future, and we'll discuss exactly how that's going to go a little later on. Right now, though, let's return to the news.
There's this rumor.
What else? Yeah. Rumor,
That Kate Hudson is dating Brad Pitt.
Oh.
That's what Hollywood's saying. Scuttlebutt.
Interesting. Scuttlebutt. It might actually be scuttlebutt. Okay, so Brad Pitt is widely regarded as being, like, super-duper good-looking, right?
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, over the years, a lot of people, guys I know, have said, Brad Pitt, like, if I was Brad Pitt, I would be dating hotter women. Like, not that Jennifer Aniston wasn't attractive, but it's not like, oh my freaking gosh, I always thought Jennifer Aniston was pretty, but she never got my midsection singing Sweet Virginia. And then you go back and he was engaged to Gwyneth Paltrow for a little bit. In fact, Chris Martin from Coldplay said that was one of his driving forces. He's like, when your wife used to be engaged to Brad Pitt, you try really hard. Like, there's a certain amount of compensation that happens when... And here's the thing, Gwyneth Paltrow, certainly not unattractive, but not like, holy freaking gosh. And then he dated Juliette Lewis. You see that?
Yeah.
Remember that, Funkhouser? And again, not, nothing wrong with Juliette Lewis.
And crazy girl.
But when you look at a Brad Pitt and you go, like, he could be dating literally the hottest female on the face of the planet. What's up with that? And it seems like he finally caved when he got to Angelina Jolie. It was just like, I'm hot, you're hot, let's be hot together and have, I can't remember who it was, but do you remember when after all the adopted kids, they had their own child in the sort of more biological way? And because it was a child of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, arguably the sexiest people on the face of the planet, some people were calling it the countdown to the arrival of the SBE, sexiest baby ever, which is weird and hilarious. But so I guess that's what they decided. Let's be incredibly good looking together and have incredibly good looking kids. Finally, he dated his and married his equivalent, which is Angelina Jolie, a lot of people thought. But he was always going out with women that a lot of guys would go, really? If I looked like you, I'd be dating hotter women than that. Nothing against who you've dated, but you could do better. Apparently, there is a certain type of deviant action involving non-traditional stuff. Am I dancing around this yet? Making it clear, Funkhouser?
What are you saying? Be
you really
specifically
don't know?
Clear.
I don't know if I can and remain
you
employed.
No,
I can't do that.
Okay.
There's a type of sex, non-traditional sex, that is outlawed in certain states. There, how's that?
That sounds like a fact. Okay.
Okay, there is a certain type of non-traditional sex that is outlawed in certain states that Brad Pitt is partial to, and apparently the reason he got engaged to Gwyneth Paltrow so quickly was because she did that on a first date. And one would hazard a guess that means, if that is what Brad Pitt is into, Kate Hudson might have done that on a first date. So yeah, there's a rumor floating around that Kate Hudson, and now let's just think
what
about
an attribute for a Hollywood celebrity.
Let's just think about the fact that Kate Hudson does that for a second, and thinking about it, and that's awesome. But yeah, there's a rumor floating around that Kate Hudson is dating Brad Pitt. A representative for the doe-eyed beauty denies it, and Kate Hudson's PR person says that's not true either. See what I did there? Okay. Hold on, thinking about it again. Yeah, still awesome. Go on.
I'm going to break it all for you. Woody Allen is in the news today.
And yeah.
Woody Allen turns 81 today. He's got the glasses.
Yeah. Kids are, his kids, they're giving him what they always do.
Uh-oh.
A restraining order. Go on.
Rolling Stone released a list of the best albums of 2016.
Yeah, did you hear who topped
They're still
that
making
list?
music?
They're still making music, and they're still putting it on pieces of plastic that they're calling albums for the sake of an argument. And did you hear who is at the top of the list of... and bear in mind, this is a magazine that is printed on paper, so why wouldn't they be discussing equally relevant forms of media? But did you hear who's at the top of that list?
Mm-mm. Bieber.
I believe it was... yeah. Well, Metallica, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, which just came out a little while ago, number 36. I believe Radiohead, Moon-Shaped Pools, that was in at number 6. David Bowie, Black Star, number 2. And in at number 1, Beyonce's Lemonade.
Good for them.
And just because it's currently the in thing to do, I believe Corey Feldman is demanding a recount.
Oh, come on. Let's all buy Corey Feldman's stuff.
Go on.
Come on. Donald Trump is threatening to terminate relations with Cuba.
Oh, man. First he beats Hillary in the election. Now he's taking away Bill's cigars. The guy really hates the Clintons. That was a thinker. Go on.
Yeah. Michael Delegati.
Oh, yeah.
He created the Big Mac and the Egg McMuffin, and he's died at the age of 98.
Yeah.
Long run.
Yeah. The creator of the Big Mac and the Egg McMuffin died at the age of 98 years old. Good run. Fantastic contributions to the world of American cuisine. He will be remembered fondly everywhere by McDonald's customers and also plus-size clothing store owners. Oh, man, just when Donald Trump was about to make him the head of the FDA. Shocked, saddened to hear this news. So much so that when I read it this morning, you know what it did, Funkhouser?
What'd you do?
It made me grimace. Oh, thought I was being Karate Kidded for that one.
It's a good one.
Oh, yeah,
Giant purple thing.
One more piece of news.
Once he's president, Donald Trump will have the power to send unblockable text messages to every American cell phone.
We'll talk about this next, and right now we'll just be glad that we did not elect Anthony Weiner.
My phone's going off.
Real radio. 104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
Hey, Funkhouser, how much time do we have left?
13 minutos.
Well, let's do a little bit more news, shall we, before we talk about the fact that soon Donald Trump will be able to text you at all hours of the day and night, and there will be nothing at all you can do about it. Nothing at all, I tell you.
Changing my number. Block.
Nope. Unblockable. Unblockable
okay.
text messages from the Donald.
Can send you anything at any time, okay?
What else? What's going on in the world?
The FDA has approved a study of ecstasy for people suffering from PTSD.
Yeah, because nothing helps you get over being firebombed by insurgents like an annoying hipster gyrating in front of you while flashing glow sticks in your face.
What do you? Just feel this. Does this feel like this?
What do you make of this? Have you ever?
That's good.
So back in the day when you were a kid experimenting with things in the world, did you ever try ecstasy?
One time on a Halloween, yes. Hey, feel this. Does this feel like this to you?
Did you enjoy
like
it?
to me.
Was it a thing? I mean, you only did it the one time, so
one time.
I don't think you got out of it what other people seem to get out of it, because everybody I know that was into ecstasy, it wasn't technically addictive, but they're just like, it feels so freaking good. It's what you want to do over and over again.
Yeah, it'll work well for PTSD people. Use it for therapy.
Well, see, here's the thing. It was medicinal back in the day. There's oh man, can't remember the name of it. There's a really good series that's been produced for Amazon. I think it's called Red Oaks, and it's about a kid that is a tennis teacher at a country club in the 80s, and his parents are going to therapy.
Paul Reiser.
It's really, really good. Like, really, really cool. And it's funny. It's insightful. It follows. You know what it does, Funkhouser? It really captures what it is to be young and to be taking stock of the world. And if you are at the point where you're in your 30s and you've gone through all that, like, I'm young, this is what the world is like, and then you go through all your various stages of maturing where you think you're so sophisticated, and if you're like most people I know, you realize that really very little has changed since you're 18. Pretty much by the time you hit your mid-30s, you realize that half a lifetime ago, you felt exactly the same as you do now. Have you come to that conclusion, Funkhouser?
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
It does a fantastic job of capturing that. And there's one episode of that show where his parents are going to relationship therapy, and they're prescribed MDMA. ecstasy before it was outlawed by their shrink, and they go crazy on ecstasy, and hilarity ensues and all this sort of stuff. But that's what it used to be used for. Ecstasy was a drug that was made therapeutically. It was made for therapeutic uses. It was supposed to help people overcome relationship boundaries. It was supposed to help people
Those crazy
fight depression.
kids.
And now it's being used for people suffering from PTSD. I know nothing about it because I did take ecstasy like a little bit back in the day when I was a wild and crazy drugged out kid. But I don't know if what I took had anything to do with what was originally ecstasy, which was the medical grade MDMA, which if you talk to people that did what is called the good stuff back in the day was just absolutely amazing. And now I don't take any drugs whatsoever. Like, the moment I turned 18, I became straight edge. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't believe in casual sex. I don't do a lot of things that a lot of people consider to be a lot of fun. It just makes my life easier and more simple that way. However, ecstasy started out before it was a rave drug as being this sort of like thing. And I don't know. It's one of those things that gives me immense cause for pause. But I do have friends, veterans that suffer from PTSD. And anything at all that gives people that are willing to lay their lives on the line in order to protect ours and protect our freedoms. Anything that gives them an edge when it comes back to dealing with real life, I am 100% in favor of. I just hope it doesn't cause any lasting damage because there are all these really scary facts that came out about ecstasy afterwards about how it, turns certain parts of your brain into Swiss cheese, and I don't know. But you know what? Look, anything that gives a soldier the edge, anything that cuts into the number of attempted suicides by veterans, anything that cuts into that number, anything that makes it easier. PTSD, transcendental meditation. I talked to a buddy of mine that's a veteran about this, and there's this transcendental meditation is something that's practiced by Jerry Seinfeld and Howard Stern and a whole bunch of people, and there's a PTSD organization that has adopted this as a practice to fight PTSD, and apparently it works really well. I talked to a veteran about this, and he was like, it was one of the main things I used to assimilate myself back into culture. And I was like, how'd that go? Like, did you learn how to meditate when you came back home? And he was like, no, I actually learned how to meditate as part of my military training. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. Well, what they do is, you're not allowed to, and the type of stuff this guy did was absolutely insane. Like you will not have any kind of record of your instructions. We will not give you a map. We will not give you any kind of printed media. You will not have any information on a digital device. You technically don't exist. You leave your dog tags. You jump out of a plane. You go do stuff that clears the way for an airstrike. And it's crazy next level stuff. And he said that what he did was he used meditation techniques to remember information, to help him memorize maps, to help him sort of like empty his mind and make space for facts, figures, coordinates, things like that when he's going off on his missions. And when he got back home, he suffered from PTSD, and he said that transcendental meditation that he learned as a technique for helping him memorize his missions became incredibly effective at assimilating him at home. I got to give him a shout and say, like, hey, if they gave you ecstasy, would you be into it? I'd be curious to know how that all goes. Interesting stuff. What else?
A new study shows only 41% of Americans trust organized religion.
Do you trust organized religion, Funkhouser?
What do you mean by trust? I don't even trust that sentence.
Yeah, I don't trust. You know what I don't trust? Organizations. And I'm not an anarchist. I know people have to gather in groups, but I'll tell you why. I just think there's a financial upside to anything where you gather people in groups. Like, that's it. Well,
yeah, there has to be.
This is why sucky music does well, because there's plenty of god-awful musicians that are just, for whatever reason, they connect with people, and they can get a whole bunch of people. If you can put 500 to 1,000 people in a room together, not only can you charge them the ticket fee that it costs to get in there, but let's say it's a free concert. Why does anybody have a free concert? Because we just think people should have free music. No, because you gather people, any number of them, in a large space, and you can advertise to them. You can sell them sponsorship. You can collect their money. You can take up a collection. This is why Twitter is so effective. Why do people want more and more followers? Because when you got something to sell to them, look at that built-in audience that you have. Like, I don't have anything to sell.
Why don't you go ahead and fund me?
Yeah, it's just like, So I don't trust any kind of organization, let alone organized religion. I don't trust. We talked about this the other day on the show. This is why I don't trust. All right, it's not even religion. It is the antithesis of religion, atheism. The moment atheism got organized, I was like, see, that's just people trying to cash in. And we talked about it the other day, where there's like atheist billboards up in places like New York and Los Angeles and the biggest cities in the world, where a billboard is not cheap. You know that the money for this billboard came from like-minded atheists, and they passed the atheist collection plate so they could afford a billboard, so they could gather more people to their atheist cause. So the next time they pass the atheist collection plate, there'd be even more dollars put into it. I think so many times when you have people organized in a group, it's so you can bilk them out of something. I really do, and that sounds like a cynical thing to say.
And that's why we've brought you all here today.
Yeah, that's why we
brought radio.
That's why we keep our audience very, very small, so you know we're trustworthy.
And now a word from Ed's Tire Shop.
yeah. And we'll get to the rest of this story after I finish this delicious Egg McMuffin. Go on.
Accused South Carolina church shooter Dylan Roof will act as his own attorney.
Good. That means
seems like a good idea.
Yeah, that's good, because they'll fry him because he's not an attorney. He's a crazy, awful, terrible human being that deserves everything that's coming his way. Although I gotta say, this might be an attempt to appear like he's insane. Like only an insane person would think that they could represent themselves effectively. Ergo, he's gonna get off lighter than he should. Anyways,
well, he's definitely nuts.
What else?
Charlie Sheen is selling his Beverly Hills mansion.
$9 million.
Really?
I believe
Only $9?
Yeah, $9 million. It includes 6 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and 5,000 strains of herpes. How much time do we have left?
Deep cleaning. 4 minutes.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Probably talk about how Trump is going to be. Just flew by. We talked about almost punching the receptionist, and then the receptionist that Funkhouser had sex with, and there went the day. So, here's a scary thought. When Donald Trump becomes president, he'll be able to text everyone in America anytime that he wants to, and you cannot do anything about it because his text messages will be unblockable. Now, this is not new. However, presidents in the past have been able to do this. I think he might be the first to really take advantage of it. Back in 2006, Congress passed the Warning, Alert, and Response Network Act, which established wireless emergency alerts. These are like those 90-character messages that can be sent to every cell phone in a certain geographic area. And there's 3 types of these, and you see them on your phone often. There's Amber Alerts for missing kids, alerts involving imminent threats to safety or life, like weather alerts, things of that nature, and alerts from the president. Have you ever gotten an alert from the president, Funkhouser?
Not yet. I don't know what his phone number is.
Yeah, no presidents have done this yet. And you can block the first 2. You can block the Amber Alert, and you can block the imminent threats to safety and life.
Alert.
Yeah, don't block the Amber Alert. But you can't block the presidential ones, which means if Donald Trump gets mad about flag burners or the musical Hamilton or Rosie O'Donnell at 3 a.m, we could all get angry text messages about it.
Can we set at least the ringtone, text tone? So it's like,
I don't know. I'm not sure. Don't know. This is territory that is not well worn. Here's the thing. The system's a bit more complicated than just tapping out a tweet with your teeny tiny orange hands. It requires time and effort, and it takes 2 courses to learn how to do it. So it's not something that's immediately and readily available. Also, an alert has to be issued through the folks over at FEMA. And while the director of FEMA is picked by the president, we should hope that the guy or girl that Trump puts in there will not allow him to use the power to insult the cast of Broadway shows. But here's the thing. This is why it might be something to be, on a more serious note, concerned about. Some people are pointing out that actual damage could be done here. A message went out to New Yorkers back in September to keep an eye out for a bombing suspect named Ahmad Khan Rahami. Ahmad Khan Rahami, be on the lookout for this guy. You know what was missing from the alert, Funkhouser? What would you think if you got a text message from a government organization saying be on the lookout for a bombing suspect? What would you expect to show up with that text?
Picture, likeness, description.
Aha! A picture
Shows?
or a likeness. When a message went out to New Yorkers back in September to keep an eye out for bombing suspect Ahmad Khan Rahami, no picture, because you can't send images in these alerts. Just an alert to look for a 28-year-old guy with a Muslim name. And the fear is that if Trump doesn't exercise restraint, not one of his strong suits, he could end up making a bad situation worse. Of course, I mean, he could probably do just as much damage, maybe even more, with Twitter. So there's that. Thank you so much for hanging out. Tweet us. We don't do damage with Twitter. @ADSXC, @FunkFM. Have yourself an awesome one.